Our guest for this hour is seated and he's here with us. And we're going to talk about the happenings in Nairobi over the last few weeks. And is it weeks or even days? All right, before we get into that, Michael Muthami is the chairman, the Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurants Association of Kenya, PERAK. He's here with us this morning, and it would appear as though a number of people in this association are not very happy with what has been going on. But let's give it some context before we jump right into the conversation, shall we? There have been rumblings previously about cultural establishments, as CT would refer to them, being in residential areas. And there has been complaint from people in these said residential areas. We also have a brand new governor in place. He's been there for maybe 2 months or so. And there has been talk. Are we going to move bars and cultural establishments from residential areas? What is going to happen? And then voila, the governor now said, we're not banning them. We're not shutting them down. We're saying, bring your noise levels down, close at a certain time, get certain things in order. And then we saw this movement over the weekend. Michael.
Yes.
Go.
We also give some context because when you say bars in residential areas or cultural centers,
establishments. Yes, please.
I like the word cultural centers.
You like centers? You like cultural centers?
Okay.
Is good. All right.
This movement, obviously, I remember when I was a bit younger, we didn't have what we have now. And I think this started with the alcohol blow, 2017, 2016, when there was the alcohol blow movement in town and bars started moving out of the CBD. There was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of money put in by some communities to get bars out of town. Buildings were being bought out and the bars asked to leave and being paid off. So right now in town, I think we have on the what we'd call downtown, probably about 2 clubs, so-called clubs left. So the whole of town, it would be a hard place to get a beer these days, unless you're going into a hotel.
These days being today, December 1st?
Today, yeah.
Okay.
The last year or so, it'd be hard pressed because majority of the establishments closed down. So people, the product was taken to the people. Basically, yeah.
Residential imbibing.
Yes, although it's very hard to actually say what a residential area is these days.
Okay.
Because if you turn around, the same county that's saying is residential is charging you commercial rates. Because remember, you have changed of your user. You are now a commercial place, first of all. So you're paying commercial rates. It's not that you've taken someone's house and you're selling alcohol out of it without anything.
Allow me to jump in here, Michael. When you talk about now paying commercial rates, is this at the point of licensure? When you go and you apply for a license for this particular establishment, you are told, yes, we will grant you this license. You shall pay these rates. Are the questions about where this establishment is located, do those questions come up?
We have wrong places, which is now, you're getting to the crux of the matter, which maybe I'll bring a bit later, which is corruption. The county, the licensing, the Nairobi County licensing structure has had deep corruption, whereby you had some errant people just getting licenses without the proper procedure being followed. So there are some places, even me, I look and say, aye, please. It doesn't make sense. Even me as a human being, I don't think I would like that sort of noise next to me or something next to me.
Okay.
So we have issues, but if we are talking about now and the issue we are facing today, is that the governor actually shut down and said all.
Allow me to read the declaration from the governor. Public notice on noise from bars and restaurants. This was dated the 25th of November, which was last Friday.
Yes.
Due to numerous complaints from the public on noise emanating from bars, restaurants, nightclubs, and liquor selling premises, Nairobi City County Government hereby makes the following communication. Number 1, no nightclub licenses will be issued or renewed for premises operating within residential areas. Those already issued are hereby cancelled, and the establishments may continue operating as bars and restaurants only, but no nightclubs with the boom, 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 is basically what we're saying, right? Henceforth, nightclub licenses will be issued to premises only within the central business district and specified streets in other non-residential areas. Number 2, bars and restaurants in residential areas must operate within the specified time and control noise emanating from their premises. Specifically, playing of music must stop by 10 p.m. And finally, number 3, all liquor selling premises in the county should provide sufficient parking for clientele. Vehicles causing obstruction along roads and footpaths shall be impounded. This takes effect immediately. This is signed by Dr. Jairus Musumba, who is the acting secretary and head of the county public service. Yes?
Yes, the governor put that out apparently on the Friday. There was no actually direct communication to us or anyone in the industry.
But this is direct.
Direct, this. Okay, let me ask you a question.
What would direct be? I mean,
direct
in your
let me give you
understanding
an
of it.
example. These people, when they were applying for, we are about 400, 500 people with a nightclub license. And it's called a nightclub license because it goes until 3. It's not necessary. The people who've taken that license are not necessarily having nightclubs.
Okay.
It's just the name of the license.
Okay.
Because you'd have like a late night restaurant who would apply for that license, even without any music, maybe with a bit of background, but just to give them the right to sell alcohol for those few extra hours until 3 a.m.
Okay.
So nightclub license does not mean boom, boom, first of all.
Okay.
Yes. So we have a lot of players whose license has been revoked. It was a blanket statement. First, it was illegal. He does not have the power to do this. There's only one person who can revoke.
Who's that?
Who's that?
That's the Nairobi Liquor Board. It's clearly in the act.
They are the ones who license. So therefore, to revoke license, it must be them.
Yes, and there's a clear procedure of how to revoke a license.
And is the liquor board part of the county government system, or are they independent?
They're independent to a way, but the thing is that the chairman is appointed, is at the mercy of the governor. But there are 3-year terms.
Who appoints the chairman?
The governor.
Precisely.
Yes.
And they must report to someone. Who do they report to?
Funny enough, the liquor fund is the only money that doesn't go to treasury.
Why?
It is a separate. From the days from when it came down from SAKAJA, it was separate. It was funny. We used to call it the governor/fund.
Okay, sorry. Hold on. When you say slush or you're saying slash?
No, slash.
Okay.
With the U.
Yes.
Okay. You. All right.
Not cut.
Got it.
Yes.
For context.
Yes.
Okay.
So essentially, the governor and issues to do with licensure are directly connected. But you are saying because the board is the one who have the mandate for issuing the licenses, that the governor's declaration was illegal. How?
He has no. We have an act. We have laws we follow.
And what do the laws say?
The law says, first of all, in this case of noise pollution, the liquor board is actually not even the one that's supposed to follow up on it. We have an environmental department, which is the devolution of NEMA.
And it's a devolution of NEMA.
Of what NEMA is, yes.
Is it nestled in the county?
It is nestled in the county as that. So they are the ones who are supposed to, everyone has their job. They're the ones to go to the places and actually say you're doing noise, leave a paper, say this. And they're the ones who have the authority to shut you down on that line.
Okay.
We have a big problem that was caused from the liquor licensing board. And I'll be honest, the people who are there now are new. They had nothing to do with it. Even I've seen they're being called in front of the Public Accounts Committee this week for some 490 million disappearing there.
And
but
they
these
were not
people
there.
are not there.
You do know that money actually doesn't disappear. People take it.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
Yeah. So we have a group of people who've left who put us in a big mess. And now we've all been left to deal with the consequences.
Okay.
But now the governor can't throw away the baby with the bathwater.
Okay.
Because we were even actually in the process. This was a shock to a lot of people. This thing, what happened, was because we'd had 2 previous meetings with the deputy governor.
Okay.
We were in the process of forming a committee. We were resident associations, us as the PERAK, and the county, who was led at that time by the deputy governor. So we had a meeting at Ngong Hills Hotel. We came up with a plan of what we were doing. When we had that first meeting, we had some of the old county officials, which actually, I'd give them credit, they got rid of many of them by the time we got to the second meeting.
Okay.
So by the time we got to the second meeting, they had not reached what they had said they are going to do, which was the formation of the committee, give us the people, do whatever. So by the time we had the second meeting, now is when we were actually going to kick off the process. This committee had, even during that meeting, we had residents association people, even someone from Kara, who actually admitted in that space of the 2 weeks that we had started working and getting our members to toe the line, reduce the vote, do whatever, there was a huge difference in Nairobi. People had reduced their complaining by a lot. And
Okay.
so we
Who were
had
the people who were complaining? Nairobi residents?
we had Nairobi residents complaining, yes,
Okay.
in certain areas. You see, we have, out of those, call it 400 to 500 bars, people with the license to extend, say the Kichwangumus, who, let's give them about 20, 25 in the beginning, and we cut that number down a lot in that 3 weeks.
Okay.
So we were moving forward.
I think one of the things that we need to set here clearly and honestly is whether there is an issue with noise from these establishments in residential areas.
100%.
There is an issue. So this circular that comes then from the office of the governor, when they talk about this problem with noise emanating not just from nightclubs, from bars, from restaurants and nightclubs. So the 3 categories have been called out here and said that there's a problem with noise. Is that founded, that there actually has been a problem with that in residential areas? Not the ones in the areas where nobody's complaining about. In residential areas where people come home after work, they go to sleep.
There has been an issue.
Okay.
That one is, I think everyone, it would be a lie to say there was no issues with noise. And that's what I was saying. We had started solving the issues
How?
by actually getting our members to toe in line where we can and whatever. And let's also take it to the fact that we also have laws governing the sound levels. So even we have places where the country officials have gone and checked and told the neighbor, please, this is within levels. So you cannot have,
there is regulation about the level of noise you are allowed to
make.
And NEMA does this.
Yes, it is there. It's a law which actually want a judicial review, because this was a law done in 2009.
And what's the problem with the law if it was done in 2009?
There was no public participation.
Oh, okay.
This was before the new constitution.
Okay.
So I'd give you an example. I'm seeing a newsroom there. The decibels in that newsroom would be almost, if there were people who are talking.
What are decibels?
It's the element used to measure sound.
Yes.
Like you have degrees for warmth or heat.
Yeah, that much
so you
I
have
know.
decibels for sound.
Oh, so decibels is the degree for sound.
God, there you can go with that.
Carry on.
Okay.
Yes. So now there's these decibel meters, which I think have been going around social media of the demo guys outside the clubs, which is 30 meters. You stand there 30 meters and check on the noise.
Are they standardized, these gadgets?
If you're taken to court, that's when you'll find out. When you ask.
Michael.
Yeah. But let's just take the word for it.
Okay, let's assume
just
that
assume.
the
Yes.
equipment exists
Yes.
and it measures, and you accept that the measures that are pronounced by the equipment are taken to be true.
Yes, let's just
Okay.
give them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Yes. So we've been having variations, but it needs checking because some of those levels are not fair. And I'll be honest.
How?
Because a lot of them are just copy and paste, not necessarily looking into the situation. If we were part of the discussion when making the law, maybe there would have been a bit of a difference.
Was there an initial allowance? Because I think here the bone of contention really is that in as much as there is noise, it's that this noise is in a residential area. Right?
The blanket statement by the governor closes everything. It doesn't matter. That's why it was a knee-jerk reaction. So we have got right now police walking into bars or extended licensed areas in malls and telling people to go home. You know, at the end of the day, it's about what the police understand on the ground.
No, it's more what they want, really not what they understand.
So the gap now for corruption has become huge. These raids are now going daily. Right now, people are afraid to go have a drink in their local pub because they don't know if the cops are going to turn up. It's now become like curfew time. Yes, in fact, I've been trying to make SAKAJA's curfew trend for this. So hashtag SAKAJA's curfew. Yeah, so the issue we have right now is I'm just calling out on the governor to clarify the statement. Because I think even him, I was told by a small little bird, when the statement I went out, he had not read it. So there is something he wants to clarify, but the situation is that he can't.
Let me ask you, what are the channels of communication that your organization has with the authorities? Because clearly there's need for discussion.
Right now, I'm telling you, that disconnect, whereby we were in a meeting with the DG, Deputy Governor, full meeting with all these lines of, we had someone from Nakada, it's a full meeting in Boma. We have discussed, we have a way forward, we are all now moving. We know we are forming this committee, we are looking to get the TORs and everything, budget lines, how we are moving, good. Then out of nowhere, we get a circular from the governor. So it's like there's a disconnect even within the county offices where the governor doesn't know what the DG is doing and vice versa.
It does seem like a bit of a pickle.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the clarity that is being sought from this particular circular is what then deems that, because I think you alluded to that before,
Number one.
then deems an area residential or not? Are you looking at that there will be a majority of homes where people are actually residing, and then in there you will see a few? I believe that
Nairobi West.
the Kileleshwa MCA spoke to us and said that from one street to another there are 20, I believe the number was 27 bars and other establishments in one area.
I will give Alai, although he
So
talks
what
a
is-
lot of nonsense.
Wow, okay.
Sometimes you
you-
can pick one thing out of what he says
Michael.
and pick it, and maybe there's truth. There's always smoke. where
Just a
there's fire.
cautionary note here.
Yes.
When you speak of an individual and mention them by name,
Yes.
if you say something that is derogatory,
Yes.
I will ask you for the proof and the evidence.
Yes.
Because if I don't, then it's like I agree with you.
Okay.
And I don't.
You don't.
Well, I don't know how it is you've arrived at that particular conclusion.
I think it's just bad social media messages. So
So if I can ask that question, what then deems an area to be residential or not? And is it the bylaws that you had mentioned? Is it down somewhere whereby you will say the proportion of residential units, the proportion of residential units to these other establishments must be X is to Y? How do you know that an area is residential and then in that area 1, 2, 3 then must occur? Is it in the bylaws somewhere? Is the formula written down? Does everybody have an understanding of it? I can't just go and erect a place.
now
you know,
it takes me
tomorrow.
back into the county and the word corruption comes up again because the planning department is again a mess. So now we've had there's been meetings about the next year's finance bill and all those things, and I think some of that came up. We have places that have been turned into mixed use. In that Kilimani and everything, if you see, there's places that have more or less mixed use, places that are commercial, but next to this commercial center, someone has gotten planning permission to put up flats. Even on those houses which we are talking about, which were quaint when I was growing up, those were quaint roads with house after house, all of them with kayapol fence. No one was disturbing anyone. Right now, it's construction sites in those areas because everyone wants to live in Lavington. Everyone wants to live. And if you just get a small gap, someone paid off someone, they got planning permission. You're now seeing a Chinese building of 14 stories. So, and then these small shopping malls that have come up from everywhere. There's now one next to every road has got a shopping mall. So it complicates matters a lot because the same county is the one that has licensed that shopping mall. It licensed the bar that is in that shopping mall. If we go back a bit to places like Nairobi West, like Dagoretti Corner, which are actual small shopping centers next to residential areas. But now...
But they've been there for the longest time.
Yes. But now, there are people who live in those areas, in the shopping center.
Some even live
on top of the bars.
Of those establishments.
Yes. But this is something that's grandfathered. Now you are saying someone now there behind, maybe 150 meters away, decided to open a school. According to the Act, that invalidates all those bars. They should be shut tomorrow. So we are working at cross purposes.
What sort of conversation do you think would be able to lay this matter to rest, where an understanding can be arrived at? Because what you say is true. For these establishments to exist, it's with the full knowledge of the county, through whatever means. And the county does garner revenue from these establishments. And you are right. The very fact that they're accepting revenue, it says something.
It does. Let's take a break. It's 28 minutes to 10 o'clock. We're having a conversation with PERAK chairman this morning and saying, look, there's a directive from the county and saying you're going to close in residential areas at least. But then it's opening up the door for corruption. I don't know that it was not existent before that. But okay, we continue with that conversation after the break.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
We're asking, so the closure of nightclubs, bars, restaurants in residential areas in Nairobi, what impact does it really have? We've seen numbers. We are with the chairperson of PERAK this morning, and Michael, the question is, I mean, we can look at the nitty-gritty. We can talk about corruption at the county. We can talk about, maybe there's a mess here in terms of boards, in terms of maybe the county boss was... Look, we can do that until the cows come home. We've seen some numbers. 23,000 people would have lost their jobs. Billions of shillings then having gone up in smoke because of this closure. What does it look like? What's the outlook?
Actually, I'd put out an impact statement earlier on in the week about what it's actually looking like. And even I was sitting here outside here, waiting to get into the studio. I was sent a message by... one of these reps who sell the alcohol to the bars, and he was saying, my biggest buyer has gone from buying 150 crates and now they're buying 10. So we have a huge problem. Fear from harassment. People have no money to pay bribes right now, especially since they have increased.
There was a time people had money to pay bribes.
There was always something extra to put aside for the security services. Security, even someone to help you on your way home. So
okay.
I think it's ingrained in this country, and at least unless we have lobotomies, I don't think it's changing anytime soon.
Okay.
So, in fact, we're asking if the governor is serious about this cutting off these licenses and revoking these bars. Aturudishie hiyo pesa that 130,000 shillings that every one of those establishments paid for that license.
Is that the only license you pay for?
I have about 31 licenses.
Okay, yes. I'd like you to mention them.
For one establishment?
What's the 130,000 for?
That is for now that particular, you can sell
Category
until 3 a.m.
Okay.
You'll find...
Is there one where you can sell 24 hours?
No. What happens is people join up licenses. You'll find an establishment with the 2 or 3 licenses.
Okay.
There was a big change. When we moved from Nakada, we used to pay 1 license.
For everything?
Not necessarily for where you are, sort of thing.
What do you pay for? Let's start. You pay 130,000 shillings for 3 o'clock.
For 3, that's for the 3 a.m. license.
The 3 a.m. license.
Which starts at, is it 9 or 10? And goes until...
And what are you allowed to do in that space of time?
This is only the license for alcohol, selling alcohol, nothing
You can
else.
sell alcohol up to 3 a.m.
Yes.
And you can start selling alcohol at what?
For the actual nightclub, it is from 7, I think.
7 in the evening.
7 or 9, I'll double check.
Okay.
But you see, what happened, because that was being used by those nightclubs in town, the so-called, because that nightclub wasn't open during the day.
You think?
Most of the time they weren't.
Okay.
So now there's a license. You'll find now the bar that's come into the residential areas, or what we call that, come closer to the people, has got it opens for during the day,
For meals, for breakfast?
meals, for breakfast. So that's a different license. They pay for the restaurant license,
Okay.
which is
Are restaurants allowed
30,000
Are they allowed to sell alcohol?
only with meals. That's 30,000 shillings. Then you find
30,000
yes,
a year.
yes.
Okay.
Then so you'll find the person who's paying. Like I'll give you an example of myself. I'm also an establishment owner, but mine is a hotel.
Okay.
Yes, when I have a bar on the side, so I have 2 licenses for alcohol. I
In the hotel and at the bar?
Yes.
Okay.
So I pay 30,000 for the restaurant, and I pay 50,000 for the hotel, because the hotel one gives me, it's 24 hours, but only 24 hours to my guests who are in the rooms.
I'm sorry. Just
There's a license whereby the only people who I'm selling with to that license are
the
my
people who your
residents.
residents. So you
That one
cannot-
is 24 hours.
So nobody can strut up and say, I want to have a drink at your hotel, and you can't serve them
No,
if they're not
so I
residents.
took another license to cover the person who walks
Who
in.
walks in? All right. Uh-huh.
So I pay 2 liquor licenses that come to 80,000 a
So
year.
the one, the license for the person who walks in, what is that license called?
Now that's the one which I have, which is the bar restaurant license.
Okay.
Yes. But for the hotel, I have to pay another one,
Okay.
which gives me now I can sell to the residents anytime. It's 24 hours.
Okay.
Yes. So this, so you'll find that any bar you walk into or cultural center has got like 2 or 3 liquor licenses that they've paid to the county. They have, I think we are the most regulated industry, because anyone who comes up sees, apparently we are told you are making money, so you are the easiest person. We are the underbelly. Yes. So we have our wall covered in licenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
And what about the license for noise?
there's no such a thing as a NEMA issues us a license for effluents. There's from NEMA we are looking at about 3 licenses. Yes, and there's one which is called an assessment that's supposed to be done every year or something. If you're not going into the sewer system, there's one which if your knees going into
A soak pit.
you have to have a
license for that.
yes.
Is there anything that doesn't require a license, in this business?
It would be hard placed. I'm sure there's one coming soon for the air we are breathing.
So look, I mean, it's just a matter of time. TikTok, right? Look, with all of this that you have to pay, then we say, on top of that, if all of these establishments then operate within a residential area, according to the government today, don't, right? There's an impact, even
Huge.
with all this pressure. And
Huge.
that's what we're trying to understand now. what's the impact? I mean, you did put out that people have lost their jobs or are losing their jobs or stand to lose their jobs.
Even
Which one is
right
it?
now, I'm sitting in front of a DJ deck, and that's the person I'm feeling most sorry for, because basically 90% of them are gone.
But
If you follow these rules that have been set out,
yes,
they are gone. They don't have jobs.
Why?
Who is listening to music in a club after 10 o'clock?
Okay, so the issues, initially it was that they've been banned, they've been shut down. That's not the issue. They're saying until 10 o'clock, do whatever you would like, play the music. After 10, reduce the levels. Are they saying shut it off?
They have said right now. I was sitting watching football yesterday in a bar. A policeman walked in, went around looking around, trying to hear if there was any noise from the speaker. It was just the TVs playing the football. Walked around looking, walked out. Do you know what time that was?
No.
It was 9:45. Watching now, because now we are seeing the football was starting at 10. It's crazy. That's the situation on the ground. You can't breathe.
So the policeman shouldn't walk around the pub?
In fact, we even at the height of curfew, we got to a point where we were fighting the government, and until we were getting directives that no policeman under the level of chief inspector could come behind your bar. We had gotten to a point where it was pure terrorism. Yeah, he's really bad on the ground. This is just creating bigger and bigger gaps for people to make money. It's going to Christmas.
What would it take to come to consensus? What would it take to come to middle ground, whereby there's some give and go by both sides? Government on this side say at least do this minimum, and for the owners, what would it take also to say do this? Because you've already established that, the noise in residential areas, my goodness, it's a pain in the neck. Can we see how we can sort that out? Which also the government has said, look, this is the case. But then, of course, nobody wants to see anybody lose a job, for whatever reason. And nobody wants to see the harassment that you talk about, if that's what it's going to get to. But there must be a place where both sides meet.
We were already in the process. Now, there is one thing. If we have got people, let's actually think about the people who have already complied. We have places that have spent 4 to 5 million shillings soundproofing, because soundproofing is a very expensive exercise. So they've spent 4 or 5 million. I have one bar there, one of the ones our friend was making noise about, your friend, Alai. And they have spent...
He has now established that he is my friend. All right. Okay.
5 million, they've soundproofed. You can't hear the noise from the gate. So then the problem is no longer noise. But they're still coming up on these lists. The issue now becomes the parking.
Meaning there is no time when there won't be a problem. Yes, that's what you're saying.
So now we have to come to, if we can, given time, this is the problem. Let's come together, find the solution. Like now, the people who can afford to soundproof, let's soundproof. If you can't afford, then follow the means at that 10 o'clock or whatever it is, 11 o'clock, put your music down. Fine.
All right.
We are very happy that, but don't let the person who's complied be treated the same. As now we have people who've paid the 130,000. They have done soundproofing. They have done all these things, but we have people walking in to tell them to leave, telling their customers to leave. It's not fair at all.
But that is not the realm of unfairness. That's the realm of illegality.
It is illegal what's happening, but now
the question becomes: whom do you report this matter?
No, but
to whom? Because this is happening, like you're saying, the harassment, whether it's subliminal or not, whether it's outright, that it is happening.
Yes.
Okay. To whom do you take these concerns?
Now, these concerns, as we were saying, we have tried to find. Now we are looking for how do we call it? Alternative dispute resolution measures.
Mechanisms. Okay.
Because at the moment, because of the hulabaloo, and I understand the governor is a politician at the end of the day, you have to be seen to be siding with people. Let's be honest. So it is easier for him to wait for us to look, maybe go to court or to petition, and then he can stand back and say, nilijaribu kuwasaidia lakini unaona. So even if he's based in what he's done is illegal, but he can use it. It's all about votes.
You see,
Let's
my
be
reference
honest.
wasn't what he has done. My reference was to all these activities that you're referring to, a policeman walking in to harass people, and yet you've complied. It's like it's open season.
It is open season.
Yes. Now, given the organization that you had,
Yes.
surely when you talk about alternate dispute resolution mechanisms, should that not have been the first port of call? If not, the person with whom you're having a conversation previously, what does he say? He is, after all, the deputy governor.
Now, see now.
No, because if there was
Politics
somebody,
is politics.
no, it is, yes, but if you are having a conversation with part of the administration, the number 2 in the county,
yes.
okay, he would know.
Yes.
Now, surely would that not be the person to whom you would go and say, Mheshimiwa?
Let him come back. He had gone to India.
Okay.
Okay. So on his return, there's a possibility that you could have this conversation with him.
We are hoping.
Okay. There's a question that you've not answered, Michael. I think this is now will be the third time that I'll ask it.
Okay.
Is there something wrong with these? Because I'm coming back to these residential areas.
Yes.
These nightclubs that we talk about, the bars and the restaurants. What would be the problem shutting off the noise after 10 p.m.? In a residential area. I'm not talking about in the middle of the CBD. I'm not talking about on the highway. In a residential area, what is wrong
And
with
I'll come
shutting off
back
the
to
noise
you
at
with
10?
this answer. If this is a place that's in the middle of, let's say it's a row of houses, and then there's a bus mark in the middle, and then they're playing loud, even me, I'd be like, please, relax.
I would be asking, why is there a bar there in the first place?
Thank you. But it should be maybe in the nearest shopping center sort of thing. Yes. But people got licenses where we are. People dropped a lot of money in these places. So we're in a place where we are like in a catch-22.
So are you silently saying that they should not have been given these licenses in the first place to be in those areas? You can go ahead and
That's
say
a
it's a safe
conversation
space.
for another day. But now we are here. I think the resolution is this. Let us give them the time to soundproof their things. Let noise not be something we are talking about every day. If you cannot or are not willing to soundproof, or you do not have the funds, we look for how, like now we are in talks with people who sell soundproofing to see how we can get these places soundproofed and stuff like that. So let's get these places soundproofed so that we are not discussing noise with the neighbors first. We don't want, it's not healthy for anyone to be in this continuous fight.
After all, your neighbors are your customers.
Yes,
aren't they?
it's not healthy at all for anybody, any of us. I would rather be here talking about something much happier. It's Christmas coming up. But so that's one thing. Time, sort out the soundproofing. Major thing, which is parking, is a problem. I can tell you for free, I don't have one solution.
What do you mean parking is a problem?
The areas which we're talking about, which now have the most noise behind them, are the Kilimani, Lavington.
Which means you also
areas.
have many customers.
Yes, so now everybody wants to take their car. You can find someone is living 3 doors down. Will enter their car to drive there, to fight with the watchman outside when he can see his gate.
Yes, my friend, it's called basic human rights.
Yeah. So last time we had some similar type of issue was in 2017 with the alcohol law. We had signed an MOU with the NTSA, with some of the cab companies. It was Taxify, I think, were the cab companies at the time. Signed an MOU. We came together. We had some of our stakeholders. I think it was EABL, not EABL. It was ABAC, the Association of the Alcohol Manufacturers, to come and push that the taxi.
Yeah.
A good example is Uganda. Their mentality is, which is what was here, I think, some time back, come from work, go home, take a shower, then go out. Here, Kenyans, once they enter the house, they tell themselves these days they can't leave. So they get home late because they pass through the bars. And as they are passing through the bars, they are using their cars.
Yes.
But if they were to make a mental delay of take a cab or if we are working together in the county, anything, shuttle, anything. If we've decided we are doing this, then let's do it properly. Let's create something that is not disturbing anyone.
And that would essentially take care of the parking problem, because what we have now is that there's parking again in these residential bars and establishments, that people are now parking on the roads and the access ways and the walkways, and it's causing a nuisance.
That one I won't refuse. There are people who are taking half an hour to get home if they go home at the wrong time. That is there. That is the truth of the matter. And this is these things we have to find solutions for. Yeah.
You do have your work cut out for you, don't you?
It's serious.
But the thing is, you have lawyers who represent you as an organization.
Yes.
Probably among the members of your organization, some of them are perhaps legal practitioners.
Yes.
The question is this. With the social situation we have in this country and the discussion around impunity and corruption and what have you, do you actually think that it is possible to come up with a framework that will make your business tenable and work peacefully within the law? Is it possible?
Yes, hopefully. We can only be hopeful. In fact, if the governor had followed the act and the law as it is and removed a statement saying within your hours this music shut off, if you are a club, if you've not done 1, 2, 3, that would have been different. And that's the issue. The issue I don't have the issue with the sentiment behind what he's saying. I have an issue with him doing it blanket. So the majority of people, of the group of people with that license, are compliant. But now, because of a few bad apples, they have all been attacked. So it's affecting everyone because of a few people. Why, when we were in the process of solving those few people and letting other people work.
Right.
Yes.
The way in which you've explained it, okay, unless you're saying you've not been given a chance to then sit before county government and say, look, this is what we are dealing with, but that the majority of us actually are willing to comply, or at the very least, find a solution that works for everybody. It's maybe 1, 2, 3 of these fellas that we know also we have a problem with. Yes. Have you had an opportunity to sit with them and tell them this very thing?
That's what I'm telling you. We had 2 meetings. Everything was moving forward. Then we were all hit. I'm sure even the residents association didn't expect this because we were already in meetings. We were moving forward. We had started seeing our way forward. Yeah, we were even to come up with a report to give the DG of how we are going to change and everyone is going to become compliant. And this is the time frames and this is the roadmap. We've not gotten the chance. We were just hit with this out of nowhere.
Okay. I believe that, just looking at how things have previous discourse then presents an opportunity for, some of these things to be ironed out. So maybe the losses that we're looking at are not complete losses, and that maybe now they will be returning. Because, from your own admission, there's still an opportunity to speak about some of these things.
I am very hopeful that the governor will come back to the table. And that's what I don't know. Did he know what was happening with the DG thus? Or did he have some news from somewhere else and just make this statement without the DGs? We don't know.
The thing about businesses, and the one you speak of, even with all these regulations, would you say it's a growth industry? Are more people still joining the business? Or because of the issues that you have, you find people probably shutting down and not bothering to continue the business?
You see, we are coming off a tough time of 2 years of COVID, where we had a huge attrition in our business for about 42%. And now as we are reopening slowly by slowly, this is a business where everyone retires and thinks, let me open a bar. Nimeambiwa iko na pesa. That's a problem we've had in this industry. So we actually have those issues when we're trying to capacity build people who entered this business blind. It's the same as during COVID. The people who started opening wines and spirits left, right, and center. If you look at some places, that's what you're saying is a building, and then down there's wines and spirits. And that's what every building, if you go around these lands, you go around some places here, is wines and spirit after wines and spirit after wines and spirit. People just open without actually knowing. So now we have an attrition of the people who opened without knowing what they were doing. Professionalism is a problem in our business.
Okay.
Yes. All we can do is hope for capacity build and see where we can go.
One can only hope. So, Michael, thanks for coming in and talking with us this morning. And also, shedding some light. And, when CT wants to open that establishment, to also understand how many licenses did we say? 31 licenses that you need to open such an establishment. It's also a learning, process for a lot of people to understand what it gets into it. And the hope is that, you can have a conversation with county government and that we will not see job losses. But at the same time, everybody that can and should comply will, comply.
We already have seen the job losses in that 1 week.
Hopefully we can, claw back on that. Indeed. Michael Muthami is the chairperson of the Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurants Association of Kenya. Thanks for being in Kenya's biggest conversation with us this morning. As we round down on the show today, thanks a lot for joining us, and hopefully we can catch up with you in the near future and find out, how far, right? Asante sana.